care if you're ready or not. Hi, Bridget.
Hello.
And then she stepped on the ball.
Welcome to the Lovecraft eZine podcast. No guest today, which I will attempt to do more of in the new year. Maybe like 1 out of 4, like once a month, no guest. At least guests
I
are
only
exhausting.
drink.
Huh?
I only drink when there's no guest.
Well, drink up.
What, drink what? It's like, come on, Pete.
Yeah, what you got?
Tequila is my lady. No. This, I believe, is some sort of peach schnapps and peach tea.
I'm considering getting a Corona out of the refrigerator. Not the virus.
Matt, did you get that yellow sign drink that Cthulhu Wars was putting out?
No, it looked pretty dreadful. I didn't.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do? Save an empty can?
Yeah, well, I didn't drink it. I just emptied it.
Wait. Are you saying that?
Yeah.
Are you saying that the empty cans of Lovecraftian beer I have downstairs are worthless?
No, it's just like there's things that spouses are willing to accept in places where they draw the line.
We had this conversation off camera.
Well, it came. I only ordered it because it came with it's going to come with a great Astor and Yellow King sculpture, whatever that eventually gets shipped from China.
Well, all of you watching, we appreciate you putting up with us on your Sunday. This is like church, except completely reversed with a lot of swear words and monsters.
Matt, bring that back.
It's an elder thing.
Let me put you on screen, so keep that up there, Matt.
Where's that from?
I got it from a Kickstarter. They did some a Mountains of Madness thing. There's a giant albino penguin with it.
Okay.
It was really a nice set of figures. I got it here mainly to kick German Godzilla's ass.
Well,
he's too chicken to even show up.
He's always late. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you ate German Godzilla in effigy this morning, right?
That was a pretend picture.
No. I made it famous.
Well, if we want to kick Godzilla's ass, I should bring
German Godzilla.
German Godzilla. I should bring from downstairs my even death may die Cthulhu statue.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that's huge.
That's huge.
Wow. Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll see what Langan has to say about your eating German Godzilla this morning. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, so please remember, viewers, listeners, children of all ages.
And sexual persuasions.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody here is a creator of some sort. Matt does something. And
he's an editor.
I know. I linked to him. I'm kidding him. Just go to the Lovecraft eZine podcast website. Click on podcast, top left, scroll down past the guests, and the panelist names are hyperlinked. Even the ones that aren't here today, Langan, and you'll come across what they do, or one of the things they do. So please support them, including me. Hey, thanks for all the new patrons lately. That's nice. I really appreciate that. And speaking of spouses, so does my wife. It's a difference between generic saltines and the real deal, so it's important. Yes.
Is anybody else seeing this thing with my eyes?
I see you're wearing glasses.
Yeah, but no, the reflection.
Oh yeah,
my eyes are.
Yeah, I can see that.
Really weird.
You see the screen reflected on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, I thought it was a light that I couldn't figure out where. That's the light.
That would be a major twist in a movie, that someone will be looking at you and see the reflection and see what you're looking at, and the plot would turn on that moment.
Wow.
Yeah, like Twin Peaks when Agent Cooper sees the bike in Laura Palmer's eyes. It's kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Solved the case. No, he didn't really, but
I'm thinking more of the beginning of Goldfinger when Bond sees the guy who's about to knock him out, the girl's eye.
Right now, everybody watching is like, why do we put up with these guys? I don't understand. I'm going to ask you guys what horror movies you've been watching and or going to watch. But before we get there,
I think we need to introduce ourselves.
yeah, we need to introduce ourselves. I will start. I'm Mike Davis. I'm a, quote, sweet old man, because I was in the Walmart checkout lane yesterday, got everything checked out. It just, I don't know, maybe not much, but $75 worth of food that was nice to have. And pull out my wallet, and I realize my 18-year-old has my debit card.
Mm.
And surely, Pete, you've gone through this. No, you probably have multiple backups, knowing you.
Not with my 18-year-old, but with my wife.
That happens to my cash.
You don't let her have her own card, man.
She has her own card, which
well, why does she take yours then?
It's easier. No, it's easier for her to go through my wallet instead of go to the ATM.
It's easier to go through Pete's wallet than probably is her purse. I don't understand. Women are just really talented, because I don't understand how you can find anything in these purses. Danielle's like, it's in my purse, and I'm like, that's like saying it's on Earth.
When Mandy says it's in her purse, I reach back, I get the purse, and I hand it to her, because I'm not putting my hand inside something like that.
Right now,
okay. So now here's something I really do in clinic. I really do this in clinic when I've got a slight elderly woman and she comes into me complaining of shoulder pain. I'll actually reach over and pick up her purse.
Yeah.
And see how much it weighs, because sometimes they carry their bowling ball collection.
Right now, Bridget's the one thinking, "Why do I put up with these guys?"
Oh, what?
What? John Langen's late? Oh my God! I had no idea this would happen. I'm just gobsmacked. I didn't know. Hey, did you see that Matt ate German Godzilla in effigy, John, this morning?
German Godzilla says that those pancakes were not German Godzilla, unless they were potato pancakes with for surface applesauce and perhaps a little Nutella.
Well, tell German Godzilla he needs to turn up his microphone a little bit. Anyway, so as by way of introduction, she was very nice, and she's like, we'll just put them right here. I leave at 4:30. If you come back after I leave, though, we'll put them over by customer service. You can just pay that. And I'm like, okay, thank you. That's very nice. My wife goes back a few minutes later, because she gets off work sooner than I thought that day, and goes in there and gets it. She's like, my husband, and he explains the whole thing. She's like, oh, yes, the sweet old man who was here 45 minutes ago. I'm like, Danielle, you're making this up. You are making this up. She's like, no.
Okay, Mike. 3 years ago, I was visiting my sons in Madison. I'm leaving. It's Sunday, so we're going to have lunch. We're going to have breakfast. And we go to IHOP. They gave me the senior discount without asking my age.
Why wouldn't they?
Because I practically started crying.
Well, then my son goes, why are you surprised? Your hair, this doesn't come across on video, but he goes, your hair is totally gray. I'm like, okay. Thanks.
Wait, I'm trying to figure out if did Matt cry because he got it, or did he cry to get it?
Probably.
Well, I was so happy. I was so happy. It was 10%.
Hey, 10% is 10%. I mean, especially at IHOP, that's a lot of hop.
John, since you're talking, you want to introduce yourself? I'm Mike Davis, Lovecraft eZine dishwasher.
I'm John Langen, not Mike Davis. Actually older than Mike Davis, although you would never know it to look at the two of us.
What? So what was that? You're quite a bit older.
Turn up your hearing aid. Come on,
come on.
You can do
60s?
Wow. That's awesome. That's right.
Pete Rawlick.
Yeah, I'm Pete Rawlick.
Thank you.
And last night, I said to my wife, Pauly Shore has a new film coming out. And my wife says to me, Pauly Shore, what is he, like 70? And I looked it up online, and he's a year younger than I am.
Oh, that hurts.
Ouch.
That hurts a lot.
There
Also,
you go.
whenever you have to compare yourself to Pauly Shore, that's not a good situation.
No.
Yeah.
No. So
Bridget,
right now, my wife is on my shit list.
Bridget
Right
Bridget.
now. Yes, I'm a super horror fan, writer, writer of music, and artist. And I have a person, I know exactly what's in it and where it is. So there you go.
I think, Bridget, you don't know this, but I really was into music for quite a long time. Composed a few things. I can sing, according to some people. That's how I got my wife, actually. And
Say that again.
Because I hate to admit this, but me and a couple of friends were really into karaoke, right? This is like 1995.
Wait. What's karaoke?
That's how
I'm
they
not
say
going to explain
karaoke in
karaoke
Iowa.
to you. Yeah, so one night, I sang there a lot. One night, Danielle's there, she's going to the bathroom. She hears the girl in the next stall. I'm taking that guy home with me tonight. And Danielle's like, the hell you say? That's my boyfriend or fiance or whatever we were at the time. So
that's
anyway,
that guy who's been stalking me and I have the restraining order against. You're not taking him home.
That's right. I was thinking about watching Nocturne. Have you seen Nocturne, Bridget?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Okay. It's part of this Welcome to Bloomhouse thing. We'll talk about it later. Matt Carpenter. Yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Hi there. This is a little Ulthar cat. I'm just showing him off. Anyway, our prize this week is an old comic compilation called Zenith by Grant Morrison. It actually was written, I think, in the 90s. This is the 2014 first compilation issue in hardcover. It's of
in the
interest
90s.
to you.
That's the karaoke era of yeah. Go ahead. Okay, go.
Yeah, karaoke. Okay, so the evil entities are the Loigor, and there's this other evil entity called Yotsotot. So there is a bit of a Lovecraftian connection, although you really wouldn't call it a Lovecraftian comic. But if you want this,
Why? Because there's some unpronounceable names.
Yes.
All
Send
right.
an email to ezineprizes@gmail.com and put Zenith in the subject heading. In 3 or 4 weeks, we'll choose a winner randomly.
I'm really selling this thing for you. Am I mispronouncing karaoke, Pete? Is that why you keep glaring at me every time I say it?
Karaoke?
Karaoke. It's both are correct. It's like octopi and octopuses. They're both correct.
So Matt, isn't that like an early Grant Morrison where he was kind of it's like a kind of he was inspired by like the Watchmen and that sort of stuff. It's like a sort of new generation of a younger superhero, and there's been this older generation of superheroes during the Second World War. And I remember reading the beginning of it and thinking, wow, this is really cool. This was back in the 90s when we all sang karaoke. But
Right.
still.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, that's it, actually. That's exactly kind of the plot line. It certainly owes a big debt to Watchmen.
Did you guys see the end of The Boys? For a show called The Boys, it's surprisingly and refreshingly feminist. And then what Frenchie's, what's his name? He's like, girls do get it done, and they're kicking Stormfront's ass.
Stormfront, you mean Trump's favorite superhero?
Yes, that's her. That's her, all right.
Heroine of the alt-right.
Oh God! Our friend Laird posted a video of Trump dancing today, and I'm reeling. I don't know. I was lucky there was no sharp knives within reach. Rick Lay, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Rick Lay, writer and expert on obscure pulp characters.
All right.
Like karaoke.
Oh, for God's! I'm sorry I mentioned it.
No, wasn't he like one of like? He was like the Green Hornet's first sidekick.
I was going to say he sounds like some sort of Tarzan ripoff who wasn't marooned in Africa, was marooned in the South Seas or something.
Oh, okay. Keep going, Rick. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, I like
he was played by a silver-haired fox who could sing like nobody's business.
One of my jokes,
right, by the way.
One of my jokes about Tarzan and his imitators is if you read that type of fiction, you come to the conclusion that jungle animals are racist. Because if they find a black child, they eat them. If they find a white child, they raise him to be king of the jungle.
That's
true.
Those are immensely problematic. I mean, I remember loving the first Tarzan novel when I was a kid, but you sort of think back on it now and you're like, oh,
Hey, you learned. You learned. You grew. So.
Yeah. Interestingly, though, in the John Carter books, the whole color scheme is really weird because, as I recall, the white guys are the bad guys in that.
Yeah.
For whatever that's worth.
What was I going to say? Oh, yes. Here, email. I don't read many emails that I get, but I got permission from this guy because you guys will like this. This is from Maxwell Brown. I don't know where in the world Maxwell Brown is, but he says, hello, in the episode you mentioned, in the episode where you interview SP, that'd be Muskowski, you mentioned a Doctor Who book that you got for $1 because on the back it said the world ended on October 13, 1970. 12th of October, 13th would have been better, Maxwell, but yeah. I'll continue reading this, but that's Dead Romance. It's not, I wouldn't classify it as a Doctor Who book, but he's referenced, right? He's referenced, let's just put it that way. And this is a very unique book, I have to say. It really is. Okay, so it's Dead Romance by Lawrence Miles. I told Maxwell this, and I looked it up on Amazon. And since I talked about this, the price has gone up. It's $11 on Kindle, and it's like $35 on for print used books. But worth it. It's a really good book. I did the same thing for Displaced Person without realizing it. Now all the copies are like $120. So he goes, what is that a reference to? Is it Zelazny's Lonesome October? No, again, Dead Romance. Thanks for your help and the work you do for the show. I really enjoy them, not only for the content, which is great, but the intent. The fact that you do this for the love of the weird and of the fiction itself is inspiring. This is to all you guys. My father died a few years ago. The whole letter. My father died a few years ago. We were best friends, and he was also a weird book collector. We had so many conversations about books, horror, and sci-fi. He gave me the first book I ever read and made me a lifelong reader, which was, I think he's saying his favorite book is I Am Legend. I'm sorry. He gave me Lovecraft too, but as a kid I found him a bit boring, much preferred the block. Anyways, listening to you all talk, discuss, and divergently nerd out reminds me of our conversations, and it's rather comforting to hear. Thanks again. So that was really nice. And big thanks to you guys for being here, because I don't know, people don't seem to think that when I talk to myself it's very entertaining. So probably good you guys are here. So on
the other hand, when you sing karaoke to yourself, that's hysterical. We could do like 3 hours of that. Mike Davis does Journey.
Actually, it'd be more like Leonard Cohen or something. But fun side fact: when I sing, my cat Charlie freaks out. I don't know. He either doesn't like my singing or he thinks I'm crying or something. He'll come up and meow at me. So anyway, thank you, Maxwell.
The jokes, it's like it comes right over the plate, and you just think, "Now I'm going to check my swing."
Yeah. You can say whatever you want. All right, so that's a really good book. Rich Bunting, who is not here, mentioned a book called Devolution, a first-hand account of the Rainier Sasquatch Massacre. I don't know if I'm saying all that right.
That's really good. I mean, it sounds. I don't mean to sound insulting if I say surprisingly good, but
yeah,
it just doesn't sound that promising, right? A Sasquatch novel, but it's really, really good.
What's the name of it?
Sorry?
What is it? What's the name of it?
It's called De-Evolution, or Devolution, I'm not sure. A first-hand account of the Rainier Sasquatch Massacre. The reason why I'm bringing it up is Rich said it was so good. Langan's now saying it's very good. I haven't read it yet, but I get an email from Amazon once a day about Kindle deals. usually there's not a book on there that I like, maybe once every couple of weeks or so. But today only, Sunday, October 18th, 2020, if you're watching this live, or later tonight, the Kindle price has been lowered to, I think, $3.99. So that's a hell of a lot less than 14 or whatever it was before. So it's a good deal. And Rich and John are never wrong. So,
well, I just what Brooks does. I mean, to me, it's a fascinating follow-up to all the zombie stuff that he did. And the approach is kind of the same. It's another like sort of oral history. And the idea in this one is that there was this utopian community that was planned by, almost to take advantage, I guess, of all our, not almost, to take advantage of all our technology and technological updates and whatever. And it's planned within a relatively short distance of, I think it's Mount Rainier. And the whole idea is that everything is, all the houses are ultra green, and everything is going to be delivered via drone and what have you. And so all this sounds great, but then the volcano explodes. And there's this cataclysmic explosion. And so first it's like, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to survive this? But then there are all these weird things start happening. And what we realize is that there were these sort of a tribe of Sasquatch who have been pushed off their, whatever their lands are by the explosion. And they're looking at these human beings as prey. And what Brooks does that I find really interesting is he keeps paralleling what's happening to these people, some of whom are like, oh man, there's one woman who has survived. She's an older woman. She survived some atrocities in her past, let's put it that way. And she's like, this is bad. We have to start preparing for what's out there. And then there were other people who were like, no, everything's fine, man. And they're just going to die. You're just like, how long is this going to take,
Right.
But so what he does is he looks at that situation where here are these people who suddenly find themselves facing this foe that is hostile and vastly more powerful, but that you have a little bit of warning about. And so he parallels it, draws a parallel to Nazi Germany, to the breakup of Yugoslavia, and so it's interesting. I'm not completely sure I agree with how he does all of that stuff, but it's a really neat book. I just kind of read it because I was like, oh well, Sasquatch, why not? But
yeah, I agree with you when you said surprisingly good, not because of his talent or anything, but I see Sasquatch or Bigfoot in something, and I'm like, oh, I go the other way because I'm just not interested. But
yeah, it's like Harry and the Hendersons or something, like you just don't. But on the other hand, there's part of me that really admires Brooks for picking something that seems so ridiculous and then saying, well, what can I do with this? How can I make this successful?
Well, apparently it's great. Not to spoil anything, but are these Sasquatch? Are they self-aware and intelligent, or are they just another animal? That's what.
No, he plays with the idea that what they are is some form of Australopithecus, I think it is, the large, very large human ancestor. And his sort of speculation is that at the time that humans were crossing, and proto-humans were crossing the land bridge from Siberia into Alaska, these larger Australopithecus were hunting us. And he summons all kinds of examples of chimpanzees, say, hunting smaller monkeys and then tearing them apart. And the leader of the chimpanzee group tearing the monkeys apart and handing pieces to different members of the chimpanzee group, depending on status and all this kind of stuff. So
finger
he actually
food,
builds
sort of
a kind of interesting case for his version of things and why these creatures would be hostile. These are not happy Sasquatch.
Okay, and Rich also said, FYI, for Audible members, he said the audio was very good too. So
yeah, the fascinating thing about Max Brooks is apparently he's taught it at West Point. I don't know what his position was exactly there, but I knew that he wrote some of the G.I. Joe comics after he did World War Z. That was his next project, was working on some G.I. Joe stuff, and
Yeah.
And there's definitely.
He wrote a Minecraft novel.
Did he really?
He wrote a Minecraft novel?
Yep.
I was going to say that's where all the bucks are, but I feel like it should be that's where all the blocks are.
That is so 2012, but yeah.
Oh, man, I really didn't like World War Z.
The book or the movie?
Both of them. Plus and then I throw the audio narration into that too.
Well, I can't comment with you guys on De-Evolution, but I certainly bought it based on Rich's recommendation. I'm glad you agree, John. So
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, John.
No, I'm just going to say that I'm a big fan of World War Z, the book. The film,
it was a little nuts. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't want to make fun of anything that Brad Pitt did because, like, maybe he could buy something I wrote, right, and make me rich. And I'm like, I didn't like your movie, Pitt.
Yeah,
and now
there's a strong chance of that, and he's probably watching right now.
He watches this. He watches this all the time, and he's like, "What?"
Especially during the pandemic, they're just trying anything,
Right. Pitt's like, he's got all these Langan books, and he's like, oh, and then I'm like, oh, World War Z.
Actually, the movie I liked better than the book. Okay, and I liked the scene where they had the Israeli soldier, and she lost an arm, but she was still badass. The thing I really didn't like about the movies at the beginning is, I forget her name, but the actress who played his wife, she had just starred in the first 2 seasons of The Killing. And she was a really tough detective, major character. She's the major star of this kind of important series. And so she becomes kind of this shrinking violet there to protect, okay. She has like one scene where she knocks a zombie over, I think. It's like, okay, why don't you, if you're going to have this really high powered action star, why don't you have her do something?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, and I think the other thing is that for me anyway, in the novel, it's come from somewhere in China, possibly a city that's been submerged by a sort of Three Rivers gorge dam.
Oh, is this the China virus that Trump keeps talking about? The zombie thing?
And it makes its way out and blah, 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 blah. Because it's a system that isn't equipped to work with honesty. It's a system that's equipped to function by covering things up.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and they pulled that out of the movie. They were like, no, we can't alienate the Chinese market, whom I don't think watched the movie anyway. So you might as well have just,
Well, that's okay. You got to think the Chinese market is so completely different conceptually than the U.S. market. We're like, there's 1 billion people. It's like, so even if you get a teeny weeny market share, that's millions and millions of followers.
10 million people or something like that. Yeah.
Right. And here it's like, I have like maybe 2 fans, and they're only happy if I cook for them.
So Danielle and I are watching The Haunting of Bly Manor. We're not finished yet. I think we're on episode 6, maybe. I don't know.
Is it a haunted house show? Is that what it is?
It's a haunted manor show. As I was saying, yeah. So far I like it better than The Haunting of Hill House, which I really did like, except for the ending. And then I posted the soundtrack, on social media and tagged Bridget on it because I just think the music for the show is composed by the Newton Brothers, and it's just so wonderful. It's just such great music. And Bridget wrote, I think on the message board, eZine message board. Yes, the music from Haunting of Bly Manor is great. I saw the first 2 episodes so far. So there's that. But then you wrote, I'm still processing Ares on Netflix. Very dark series. I've never even heard of this.
Okay, so you want to know about Ares?
Yeah, please.
So it's a limited series on Netflix. It's a Dutch show.
Okay.
I think it's 10 episodes, but they're only about 30 to 40 minutes each, so it's pretty quick watching. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's Lovecraftian, but if you're into like secret society, weird ritual kind of mystery sort of stuff.
Who isn't?
Yeah.
It's like the Elks Club.
Oh, dear. I'm not gonna get a comment on that, but
I like to say sometimes if something's not Lovecraftian, but if you're into cosmic horror and Lovecraftian themes, you'll like it. Is it like that?
Yes, and what I thought was interesting about it is that typically when you see some kind of secret society in a movie, it's always someone on the outside trying to learn about it and figure it out. But this follows a specific character who gets initiated fairly early in the series. So it follows her figuring out everything about the secret society. And there's basically Baal, the demon that's part of what they worship or caretake, or I don't know. But it's really dark, really intriguing.
Man, I'm
not
sold.
Like anything I've seen in a long time. I found it really interesting.
Well, thank you for the recommendation, because it really does sound good. It's on Netflix, you said?
Yes.
It's Ares, Ares, right?
Yes, like the God of War, Ares, which they
right.
That's the name of the secret society, Ares.
I always think of Angel season 5, and as we all know, everything usually boils down to Angel or Batman. But where they're talking about this secret society, the Circle of the Blackthorn, remember that, Rick? And Spike's like, never heard of him. And the other guy's like, yeah, that's because it's a secret society. So, and then, Bridget, you mentioned there's a new anthology series that just started on Shudder, the Mortuary Collection. I'm looking forward to checking that out. Do you know anything about this yet? Is it?
Not much. It started on the 15th, I think it debuted.
Okay.
But from what I've read, it seems like it's a pretty good anthology series. So I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Okay. I'll do the same. Thanks. All right. Are you and Mike, your husband Mike, liking Bly Manor so far?
Yes, I watched a couple more episodes today, and I love that it is basically Turn of the Screw, but set in the 80s, and then there's lots of other stuff in there to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, the music is great. I like how they took the theme from the first season, and then in the second season, I had to listen to them both and compare to see. But yes, the second season's music is so much more romantic and flowing, and they put the melody in a lower octave as opposed to the main theme being higher and a little bit more mysterious, I guess, in the first series, you could say, but it's a little bit darker because it's lower in the second season, and a lot more sweeping, flowing lines that makes it kind of give it that Victorian feel, which I thought was interesting considering it's set in the 80s. So I thought that was really neat. But then it's got all of the 80s music that we know and love, and
the 80s pants that she's wearing almost the time.
Epic pants.
Yeah. Well, it starts off with a wedding in 2007, and then she's like telling them the story of what happened 20 years ago, and because they have some time or whatever, I forget. Which I always love that concept if it's done right. So, and someone who's watched it all the way through has told me that there's a very good reason why she's talking about this, and it's revealed at the end without spoilers. So yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing it. Okay, so on Amazon Prime, there's this new, I guess it's not a series. Here's from Insider. 4 new horror movies will premiere on Amazon Prime this month. Here's what you need to know about the spooky new film series. So it's called Welcome to the Bloom House. You guys have probably seen this. Or at least run past it on Amazon, I mean. The films are a part of a new series on the streaming site called Welcome to the Bloom House, from the producers of Who Cares. 2 of the movies, psychological thriller The Lie and sci-fi horror film Black Box, premiere Tuesday. They're all on there now. The other two, Nocturne and Evil Eye. Now, to me, Nocturne looks interesting and Evil Eye looks interesting. I've heard it said that Black Box is the best, but I'm just speaking from my personal perspective. Have any of you seen any of these yet? No? Okay.
No. I did watch a good movie on Prime that we've talked about previously, which I hadn't seen.
What?
Starfish.
Oh yeah, I still haven't seen it. Looks boring.
I thought perhaps it was one of the best cosmic horror movies I've ever seen.
No kidding. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
I was really, really impressed. So
Okay.
it does look boring, but it's not.
Even the trailer's boring.
So
It's introspective.
it sounds like a must-see.
It reminded me a lot of was it the Japanese name was what, Cairo, the Pulse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A radio signal basically causes an invasion.
Is this like what's that radio show when we like
WXXT or
No,
AM 1200?
not AM 1200? It's about the DJ.
WKRP.
No,
The
it is definitely
Vast of Night or whatever it was. That one.
Oh yeah.
no. But the
Vast-
Max, what was the title on that? The
Vast
Vast
of
Night.
Night?
Oh my God, what a great film! Yeah,
No, it's nothing. It's not comparable to that.
Pontypool. That's what I was trying to think of.
Pontypool. I think it has some things to do with Pontypool.
The Carrier rings a
Yeah.
bell.
Yeah,
I must watch Pontypool again.
but yeah, I was really impressed with Starfish. It's a little slow moving, but I think that works with the character. So that might be what some people complain about.
Well, I don't mind slow at all if it's compelling.
Yeah.
And you're saying it's one of the best cosmic horror movies you've ever seen?
Yeah, there's some real freak out scenes in this.
I
Like-
actually think I really dislike this show.
The Lovecraft eZine podcast or Starfish?
No, Starfish. We watched it on eZine Movie Night.
Oh, you did? Didn't like it?
Yeah. My favorite character was the turtle.
Yeah, that is the movie. I like.
It's turtles all the way down. Let me just
So
tell you that.
we got Pete for a must-see and Matt for a never-see.
Right. So we need your tiebreaker there, Rick.
I've got to watch it then.
I'm gonna have to watch it too.
Well, I don't want to take the blame for anyone watching this. Just
You're not. Pete
Look,
is.
I watch a lot of shit. This was actually a pretty damn good movie.
Yeah, Pete
If I
watches
don't
a lot
like
of
it, I'll
crap, so
blame
we don't
Pete.
have to.
All right.
If I don't like it, I'll blame the person who recommended it.
All right.
But if I do like it, I will applaud you. See.
And it could be also a ripoff of In Goth We Trust on WIOX. So,
Oh yes.
so Google that, people, because you should Google it.
Look, if I'm wrong, I'll go to jail quietly, peacefully. I'll deserve it. But if I'm right, you, Eddie, will be responsible for saving the lives of millions of registered voters.
get that guy out of here. Okay, yeah, people, Google In Goth We Trust on WIOX because
Is that Chelsea Godwin's show?
It is, and she's been such a very loyal listener and viewer of mine for many, many years, and I really
Yes, she's
appreciate
actually
it.
won a few prizes.
Yeah. Yep.
I think I've been on her show a couple of times.
I have
It's like
too.
community radio
Yes.
up in the Catskills, and
Yes.
yeah, we have these terrific late night conversations.
It is.
Or it
Yes.
was all a dream. I mean, one of the two. or
Yeah,
both.
yeah, and I gotta apologize to her because I think she asked me on for a second time, and I absolutely let it fall through the cracks. I mean, we didn't make
That's
a date.
whatever you do, Mike. It was not as bad as what I did. It's just when I set everything up for
Well, I would
Wednesday.
accept that
I
as an
set everything
axiom.
up for like Wednesday, and I dialed in Thursday. It's like, oops, I was a day
Chelsea,
off.
this is what you get for booking old people. So, in their 90s.
Hey,
No, in the 90s, not their 90s.
She booked him in the 90s?
In the karaoke area.
In the karaoke era. They met at a karaoke bar.
yeah,
He was singing Motley Crue.
Karaoke.
Okay, so Bridget, somebody online said they didn't like Nocturne because it was a little bit slow moving and it was all about music and you know, just the slow creeping dread or something. I'm like, you're selling the movie to me, man.
Yeah, it's all about music. Okay, sweet.
I will watch it tonight.
Plus, the summary sounded really interesting.
You want to read the summary? You got it in front of you still?
No, but I can.
No, I don't, Mike. God damn it.
It's like I looked up 3 other things since then. No, it's fine. But yeah, I got it. Hold on.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
All right. Inside the halls of an elite.
No pressure. Go ahead.
Inside the halls of an elite arts academy, a timid music student begins to outshine her more accomplished and outgoing twin sister when she discovers a mysterious notebook belonging to a recently deceased classmate.
I am so fucking sold on this.
We got music, we got twins, and a mysterious notebook.
Right, the mysterious notebook. I always love that. You know? So,
Well, this could also be a Nicholas Sparks production. I'm just saying.
in that case, I will kill one of you.
Oh, no, wait. What about is Nicolas Cage in it?
Oh, that would be
Isn't
awesome.
he in everything?
Well,
Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Sparks together again for the first time.
with music by Nickelback.
Oh, you're ruining my life.
What is wrong with you, man?
You know,
Oh
I
my
hear
God,
that
really?
Mike used to sing Nickelback in karaoke.
Yeah. Do you know what happens when you play Nickelback backwards?
I don't even know a
It sounds
Nickelback
good.
song.
You get your 5 cents back.
You know what happens when you play a country song backwards, right?
Somebody finds his wife, gets his dog back, and his truck starts.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly right. Cosmo's possible. Pay attention. This is important. Cosmo's Possible Worlds is on Hulu.
What the hell?
You mean Cosmos?
That's what I said. Cosmos. It's not Cosmos.
Like Cosmopolitan, the magazine?
Oh my God.
They have this?
All right. I just pretend for a
10
minute
ways
that
to
you've
bring your
heard the
man to
name Carl
ecstasy in your
Sagan
bed. And alternate worlds.
and Andrewen and Neil deGrasse Tyson, especially Carl Sagan and Andrewen. And yeah, this is like, I mean, I don't know if they're calling it Cosmos Season 3, but you guys remember the original Cosmos from the 80s.
80s. Who was alive during the 80s, Mike? Come on.
I watched it. I streamed it, you know, decades later, because obviously I wasn't around, being only 29 now. But yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but it looks really promising. I've seen a few minutes of the first one. I just realized today that it's on Hulu. So I just, you know, there are a lot of people who listen to this show who, I assume, love horror and sci-fi, you know, which to me kind of goes along a little bit with astronomy and cosmology. But Pete, I could be wrong. Anyway, I just want to make people aware of that.
You probably are.
And I probably am, yeah. Rick, you want to talk about Hellstrom on Hulu, and both Rick and Matt want to talk about the latest episodes of Lovecraft Country, spoiler free? Let's start with Hellstrom, Rick.
Okay, Hellstrom is a Marvel comic book series
All right.
that was commissioned when Marvel Television was separate from Marvel Films. So, in other words, Kevin Feige who was the head of Marvel Studios, didn't have a thing to do with it.
Right.
And if you follow the politics of Marvel, there was sort of at times a feud between the television division and the movie division. So this is one season of a TV of a streaming show on Hulu, which is probably not going to be picked up for a second season.
Okay.
Despite that, it's pretty good. It's not the best supernatural series I've ever seen, but it has some excellent performances. It deals a lot with demons and exorcism. Hellstrom was originally a comic book called The Son of Satan. And that's gone through, in the history of Marvel, different revised continuity. The hero Hellstrom and his sister were originally the children of the devil with a mortal woman. And I think in current continuity, it's a demon that sometimes pretends to be the devil.
How many episodes is this?
10 episodes.
Okay.
It has excellent performances by Tom Austin as Hellstrom. Damon Hellstrom is his full name. He has a sister named Anna, played by Sydney. I wrote a name down here somewhere. Oh, her first name is Sydney. I forgot.
That's fine. But you recommend? I mean, it's worth a watch, even though.
Well, I'm saying, but the last thing I wanted to say is the killer performance is by the actress who plays their mother, who's a possessed woman in an asylum. She's played by an actress named Elizabeth Marvel, and she gives a really great performance. And that's what sort of sold me on the series.
Okay. Rick and Matt, you've been showing Lovecraft Country on eZine Movie Night Saturdays at 9 Eastern. You guys, Rick or Matt, or both of you, want to talk about the latest episodes? Rick, you were talking to me before the show and telling me that they're really good, and I've watched the first several, but
a couple things. First of all, it doesn't necessarily have a whole hell of a lot to do with the book. Okay, the story has been certainly fleshed out a lot and gone in a lot of different directions that Matt Ruff never went, which is fine. You know, I think the visuals are great. It's a good-looking cast. It's good-looking effects. The music is great, and there's some really tense scenes that are very enjoyable. For the most part, it's like I thought, okay, episodes 5 and 6 to me did not move the plot, whatever, and that was more just like filler or marking time. Mm-hmm. But 7 and 8 got us back on track, and there were some pretty intense things that happened that I enjoyed quite a bit. I think I'm probably not the person to discuss this, but okay, did you ever watch the movie Django Unchained?
Yeah.
The Tarantino flick. Okay, to me that's a pointless movie. It's kind of like that movie he made about American soldiers trying to kill German officers in World War II. Yeah. It has absolutely nothing to do with history. It's a revenge fantasy.
Right.
There's a certain number of scenes in here that are essentially revenge fantasy. And I can see why you put them in, but they really, to me, don't add to the forward thrust of the plot, and then they're kind of like excess baggage. But I don't care whether you could call this show Lovecraftian. It is certainly weird fiction. There's certainly a supernatural and magical element. And it really doesn't matter that it has nothing much to do with the book at this point.
That happens a lot.
I'm just super enjoying it. I can't wait till the last 2 episodes.
That's what it boils down to, right? Really?
Yeah.
So, Rick, do you
And
want to add
the music is fantastic.
They're also have done. They've mixed a lot of different type shows together. You had an excellent variation on Jekyll and Hyde. You had a show which used Korean mythology. You've had a multiverse episode, and you had sort of 2 scariest demons I've seen since the Weeping Angels, who were the demons from Uncle Tom's Cabin, I'm going to call them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those were from episode 8, and oh my gosh,
they scared the heck out of me.
They were great. That was great. That was it was intense, Mike. It was really an intense scene. They look like little girls, but they sure aren't. And they're chasing another little girl from scene to scene. And it's really creepy.
They're chasing Diana. And I was really concerned for her.
Well, there's nothing lovelier than a young child's laugh, unless it's 3 a.m. and you don't have any kids. So,
okay. Do you think the name Diana refers back to mythology, like her mother's,
or Wonder Woman comics?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of the Roman goddess of the hunt. Okay, but sure, Wonder Woman.
Well, it's the same.
Yeah, it is.
That's what they
based.
Tell that to the Romans.
Hey, Matt, they based the goddess of the hunt on Wonder Woman. Don't you know anything? Jesus.
That's just the Romans didn't have Apollonia as Diana's mother.
Right.
Artemis Gordon,
Yeah, all right. So, man, I got to write down a couple of things to watch. Eris and the Mortuary.
So if you want to watch the last 2 episodes of Lovecraft Country, we are showing them on movie night on next Saturday. So you don't have to have HBO. Welcome to show up every Saturday, just about almost. We at 8:30 p.m. Central Time U.S. We open up the room and show some videos, and then we show a movie or a couple shows.
I'm sorry, I said 9 Eastern. It's 9 Central, 8:30 Central, 9 Central.
And I post links in the eZine page. We welcome everybody, except German Godzilla, I'm afraid.
You can also, if you go to my Facebook profile or my Twitter profile or whatever, I've got a Linktree link and a page, and it's on there too. If you scroll down on my Linktree page, you'll see that my link to the eZine movie night. So you guys use Cast, if I remember correctly. So anyway,
now, Matt, you didn't like episode 6, Meet Me in Daegu?
Which one was that?
That's the Korean one.
The Korean
one. Oh yeah, I liked it. To me it was like, okay, why? It's like this is one of those things they stuffed in there for some Korean mythology.
It was probably the best standalone episode.
Yeah, it was. So I guess I liked it, but it's like I was more thinking like, okay, I really want to find out what happens with Tick. It's like, is Hippolyta going to be rescued?
Well, you got Tick's background there.
Yeah, you get Tick's background, and it gives you this whole backstory for Tick, and he has done some really crappy things in his life.
Yeah, I did not expect that massacre scene.
And he needs a little bit of redemption, and maybe this is his path forward.
And can I?
Okay, it was very well done. I enjoyed it as a standalone. My problem was it was like really putting the brakes on when the plot was moving forward.
Well, and can I just add that The Tick is a very funny series, and I enjoyed it. So, what?
The actor who plays Atticus, Jonathan Majors, if you don't know, is probably going to be the next big bad of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Really?
Okay.
Is he going to be Black Panther?
No, Kang.
He's supposed to be Kang the Conqueror.
Oh, he's a mean guy.
Yeah.
That's basically the Thanos of time travel.
So is he going to like fight Captain Marvel? Is that the idea?
He'll fight the Avengers ultimately, because that's how he was in the comics. He was the first big bad for the Avengers.
What's his buddy's name? Rue? No, wrong. Sorry, that was probably.
That's a bad joke.
Okay, in an attempt.
It was not.
In an attempt. Yes, it was. In an attempt to keep this show not elevated somewhat, attempt. Let's talk about some horror books. Okay, so.
I got something to talk about.
You do, huh? What do you want to talk about? Go ahead.
Okay, Caitlin Kiernan.
I do know Caitlin Kiernan, yeah.
She's a magnificent writer. Okay, so she's been writing over the last 5 years, a series of small novellas that are called the Tin Foil Brigade or something like that. And the first one was Agents of Dreamland. The second was Black Helicopters, and she just released the Tindalos asset. And I'm about halfway through it. It's really a great read. All three of these little novellas, they're not very expensive. They're novella length, so you don't get wrapped up in a single book for a long time. If you really want a nice Lovecraftian fix.
Are they on Kindle too?
I think so, but I just get the hard copy.
She used to really have a thing, and I heard that she didn't want to be on Kindle.
I think money is a great grease.
Yes, it's a great motivator. Stephen Graham Jones sent me Night of the Mannequins, which I have not read yet, but look, it's Stephen Graham Jones, and I want to shout out to it that if you don't have a copy, pick it up and read it. The only reason why I haven't read it yet is because my TBR list pile is so huge. That's the only reason.
It's really good. It seems to me a further bit of evidence in the case that Stephen Graham Jones is in fact a serial killer himself.
Yeah, I mean, you're not telling me anything. No.
At this point, I mean, it's.
You
come
know,
on, FBI,
John,
do something.
In all seriousness, I was talking to Laird the other night for a Patreon podcast, and he said Stephen, he puts him right at the top of all the horror writers working today. So.
Yes, and also of the horror writers who were probably serial killers. Yeah, it's
yeah, and
it's a terrific book. It's a terrific book, and I would love to talk to him about it, because Stephen has certain theories about the structure of the serial killer, of the slasher as he calls it, and the way that it's as he sees it, it's like a sonnet or something like that, right? Or a villanelle even. It's this really demanding and intricate form. You have to hit certain beats. And he does such crazy things with the form here that I would love to talk to him about that. And I'm a little afraid, but I would still love to talk to him about it. It's
well, maybe we should just book him again and you can do the interview.
No, I don't want to, man. I don't want to. I'll give the questions to you, and you can ask the questions to him. So he'll show up in your window later that night.
Yeah. Well, if you do, they say write what you know, John. So that's probably what's going on.
Well, that's what worries me so much,
Uh-huh.
But I think the thing is, right, that the Only Good Indians is this astonishing read. It may at this point. I mean, who knows? 2020 could surprise us yet again in a positive way. So there could be another novel that comes out or that I catch up with where I'm like, oh no, this was the novel of 2020. But I really feel at this point, certainly Stephen's in the running, or The Only Good Indians is in the running, and it may be just my favorite single novel of this past year.
I have high hopes that books will continue and the world will continue, because the Statue of Liberty is still standing, and in every apocalyptic movie I've ever seen, it's
still standing.
It's not.
Yeah. What's that? You did it, you maniacs. Yeah. I mean, what's your point?
Well, you were just hoping that 2020 would turn out okay.
No, I was hoping 2020 would bring us something good. Like it might bring us like some amazing horror novel. We were like, oh no, so like I don't want to be premature in saying that The Only Good Indians is the very best, but But at this point, man, I for me personally, it really feels like just such an accomplishment. And yet then my reason for saying that is that then he just produces this novella that is completely different, that does its own thing and is just equally amazing.
How do you think it compares to, say, Children of the Fang? That's another horror novel.
Oh no, nobody wants to read. Don't even. Don't.
Okay.
I mean, come on, man. Why would you even mention those two things in the same breath? Why?
Well,
Let's not bring the conversation down. It
in
was
all
up here,
seriousness,
and then you just brought it right down.
In all seriousness,
right?
this guy's a good writer.
No.
Children of the Fang, John Langan.
No.
All right. I am looking forward to reading, and it is out, a book called The Ghost Tree by Christina Henry. Have any of you read anything by her? I hadn't heard the name before.
No.
But first of all, the title just gets my attention right away. Lauren and Miranda have been best friends forever. Every day one would say, "Meet me by the old ghost tree," and they would have adventures together. But now Miranda only likes boys, and Lauren's father was found in the woods with his heart torn out. Two problems there, and no one was ever caught. So when Lauren has a vision of a monster dragging human remains to the woods, she knows she just can't do nothing. This just sounds really, really good, and it's got some really good reviews. So I wanted to shout out about that. What else do we have in horror books? I mentioned The Mannequins, Children of the Fang. Worse Angels, of course, if you don't know already, by Laird Barron. His hard-boiled guy does dip into, what should we say, as Laird said once, I'm not saying it's Lovecraftian, but it's Lovecraftian, something like that. So check that out. Read the first two.
I would say with that book, if you know Laird's horror, then you'll read the book a little bit differently, I think, than if you don't. If you come to Laird through his crime novels, you'll still enjoy this book very much. I think you'll still find that it's weirder than the previous two. But I think if you know his horror fiction, this book will be like Christmas morning for you. You'll just read through and think, look at this.
And I think no kidding, anybody listening to this probably is familiar with his horror fiction. So there's a lot of it out there. Ramsey Campbell, our friend Ramsey Campbell, has a new book out called The Wise Friend.
Also very good.
Oh, you've read it? Okay, good.
Yeah. I'm kudos to Flame Tree Press for publishing Ramsey's stuff. And I don't know much about Flame Tree. I don't know if they're a smaller press or what, but I'm happy to see. PS has done terrific work publishing his stuff.
Right.
But it does kind of it is kind of mind-boggling, isn't it? That you've got this guy, one of the great living writers of horror fiction, and where's his deal with the Big Five publisher?
Yes, I've had that thought several times about Ramsey.
Yeah, it's anyway. But yeah, no, it's a terrific read. It's a fast read. There's a neat reference to the Hungry Moon in it. If you read, which is an old kind of favorite of mine of his work, and yeah, they've also published his recent vampire novel, 13 Days at Sunset Beach. They've republished that, and it's the first vampire novel that he's written, and for that reason alone is worth a look.
There's even a quote. I'm looking at the Amazon page now. A quote from Guillermo del Toro, and what he says about Ramsey Campbell, and this is so deserved. An absolute master of modern horror, and a damn fine writer at that. Here's the synopsis to The Wise Friend. Patrick Torrington's Aunt Thelma was a successful artist whose late work turned towards the occult. While staying with her in his teens, he found evidence that she used to visit magical sites. As an adult, he discovers her journal of her explorations. There we go, Bridget. And his teenage son, Roy, becomes fascinated too. His experiences at the sites scare Patrick away from them, but Roy carries on the search together with his new girlfriend. Can Patrick convince his son that his increasingly terrible suspicions are real, or will what they've helped to rouse take a new hold on the world? So, and it's very reasonably priced. This is a novella, you said?
No, it's a novel. It's
Well, then
a
it really is
shorter.
reasonably priced.
Yeah, it's a shorter novel, I would say, and it's interesting that now it seems to me really obvious that one of Ramsey's like sort of abiding themes has been this interest in family and in family relations.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting now is that he's a lot of it is parents and children now. Previously, I think it was like children and their parents, or people who are slightly adults and their aging parents. But now it's as much as anything, it's parents and their kids and their teenage kids in this case. And it's a guy who's navigating. He and his wife have split up, and he has actually a pretty decent relationship with his son. But then things start to go wrong, and they go wrong in ways that are at times just squirmingly accurate. You're just kind of like,
in a very British way, probably.
Yeah, you're just like, don't do that. No, don't say that. Why? Oh, come on.
What you're saying. I remember I had lunch with Ramsey and his wife several years ago, and Joe wanted to come along, and of course I said yes. So, what turned out was that Joe and Ramsey were talking, and I was talking with Jenny, Ramsey's wife, and which is great. She's such a sweet lady. And somehow we got on the topic of favorite possessions, and that, one of my top 3 favorite possessions was this coffee cup from my son that said I was a great dad. Corny but true. And she said, yeah, Ramsey's had one for years that is the same thing. He's always got to drink his coffee out of it or something to that effect. So yeah, family, I can see that.
And this is only
deep feelings. Yes.
It's only $2.99 on Kindle right now.
I saw $6.99.
I just saw just on Amazon, and there was a $2.99 some kind of bargain thing or other.
All right, can you post the link?
No.
Okay. Well,
it says limited time deal. Kindle $2.99.
Well,
and last time, Mike, I tried to post a link like this on the eZine website. It's not letting me do it anymore. It's like I'm on the Facebook page because it's like I'm posting an advertisement.
Well, that's weird. Okay, I'll see what I can do about that.
I've read it too, and it's excellent. And what it shows Ramsey's talent for, he's been very good at creating fictional towns. And what he could have done very easily, he had enough that he didn't have to create anything new. Because they're visiting all these towns which have some mystical history. I think other than the one from the Hungry Moon, every town they have in that novel, and there are about 20 of them at least, was an original creation.
So, building on what John had talked about.
Just real quickly, I'm sorry, Pete. Matt, can you at least email that to me?
Actually, I think I was on the wrong book.
Of course you were. Anyway,
Man.
Sorry, Pete. Good.
My screen's broken, man.
I know. You're doing so well. You're doing so well. Yes, Pete. Please speak.
The Daleoth trilogy, which came out from PS Publishing a few years ago, basically covers, the character as a young child, the character as a parent in a decaying relationship, and then the character as an adult, an older adult.
Grandparent, actually.
Grandparent, yes. Really delves into the relationships between kids, parents, and grandparents. Just really a nice treatise on that. And, as a grandparent, what are your real rights and responsibilities? And that's the whole premise of the third book.
And it deals with the problems of what if your kids join a cult when they're adults?
a cult that you know everything about.
Right.
I have been inoculated, and I have inoculated my son. So, all right. Have any of you read The Deep yet? Alma Katsuo? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, yeah. Her kind of follow-up novel to The Hunger.
Yeah.
The Hunger was about or touched on the Donner expedition, and this touches on the Titanic, but then also
It says something is haunting the Titanic, and then
but also the sister ship,
Britannic.
the Britannic, which was used put to service during the First World War as a hospital ship, and
Right.
then also sank. Yeah, it's very good. I'm actually a little surprised. I thought it was going to be people love Titanic stuff. I thought it was going to be like huge Titanic. And I'm surprised that I felt like it didn't make as much of it didn't make as much of a splash as I thought it was going to. And I'm sorry. It's hard not to.
Wow, you
right?
had to say it.
I did. I'm sorry, Alma. And it's really good.
You'll never work in this town again.
As if I've been working in this town to begin with. But I think I in some ways I thought it was the way that she handled character and that she moved among different characters. I thought it was actually it showed some growth on her part as a writer. I like The Hunger just fine. It's not a knock on The Hunger. I just think that she really upped her game in this book.
I'm trying to figure out if you like The Deep or not.
I did, absolutely.
Okay.
Read The
Which
Deep.
do you like better, The Hunger or The Deep?
I think I probably like The Deep better.
Okay.
I think I did. Although I think I like the very ending of The Hunger better.
This The Deep should not be confused with the Peter Benchley novel.
Right,
So-
which was about a giant octopus, wasn't it?
No, this was more it was kind of like Live and Let Die. It was a voodoo cult.
Oh no,
This is Jacqueline Bisset.
Hey,
In the movie version.
John, in The Deep, did anyone say we're going to need a bigger boat? That's what I need to know in order to read this.
No.
Mike, I'm ashamed of you. I'm
Okay.
ashamed,
All right.
really. I'm
So
ashamed.
you're the same way you feel about me all the time.
Well, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I guess. So I'm like even more ashamed than in this particular way.
Hey, you're the one that said it didn't make as much of a splash.
I know. We're gonna need a bigger iceberg. Yeah.
I think
That's so bad.
the giant octopus novel, I think, was called The Beast.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, my favorite book ever that was named The Deep was by John Crowley and may have been written in the 70s.
Yeah.
And
Favorite book?
it's my favorite book with the name The Deep in the title. If you have not read this book, it's fucking brilliant. It is just
What's it about? The Deep?
No, it's there are two factions of royalty. There's the black and the red, and they're constantly competing against each other. And then there's this paramilitary organization called the Just, who are trying to free the people, so they're occasionally assassinating someone who's black or red. Except there's a rumor of an ancient knowledge on the far edges of civilization. And this person comes into the society, and he doesn't look like anybody else. His skin is silver. He doesn't understand human emotions. And essentially, you can infer that he's an android. And when they find out...
Who's the author?
John Crowley. He
Okay.
really was hot stuff in fantasy writing many years ago. There are quite a few of his books that are just brilliant. But this is almost Lovecraftian in sensibility. It is certainly a wow ending. So
Is it set on Earth?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't want. If you were going to read it, I know this book has been out for like almost as long as I've been alive, but I don't want to give you a spoiler if you've never heard of it.
Okay.
Well,
But it's not on Earth. It's like this is an isolated place. It's not even clear that it's a planet, and you'll figure that out by the end.
It does sound interesting. I'm looking at it on Amazon, and while there's no Kindle edition, there's several mass market paperback editions that you can get for a reasonable price.
Yeah, no, it's
there's really a lot of expensive editions too.
So. Right. No, I had a cheapo paperback from way back when that crumbled into dust.
21 used from $3.
Crowley's an amazing writer. He his big book, I guess, was called Little Big.
Right. And Engine Summer.
Yeah, and he had a tetralogy. Egypt, I think the Egypt, but AE.
Yeah, Egypt.
And I want to say that those were it took him like 20 years to write those. But we many years ago, 15 years ago, something like that. I ran a little conference at when I was adjuncting at SUNY New Paltz, and we had him as a guest of honor.
Oh, really? Wow.
And so I sat down like at one dinner we were sort of sitting across from each other, and it was really fascinating because he had always reminded me very much of Samuel Delany in terms of the kind of like, you know, the brilliance of his writing and this sort of stuff. And we got talking about that, and he said, you know, he distinguished himself from Delany, and he said that, you know, at the time that he and Delany were kind of, I don't know, coming up through the ranks, there was like one group of writers of whom Delany was part that he felt like they sort of approached science fiction and genre stuff, you know, from the inside. They were fans, they grew up loving this stuff, it was steeped in them, and then they wrote it, you know. Whereas Crowley saw himself as part of another group, and I'm not sure who exactly would be in this group, but who sort of came at genre from the outside. They, you know, obviously they were kind of aware of it, but at a certain point, and I don't know if it was when the new wave was going on or whatever, they suddenly saw like holy cow, we could do all this cool stuff with fantasy and science fiction and what have you, and so yeah, that was you know, he was kind of coming at it from the outside of things. He's a terrific writer, still alive.
You guys
I just think
really
if you like. If you like Lovecraftian type stories where you think you're following along this really interesting political intrigue and the rug gets pulled out from under you, this is the book.
Well, I'm looking at Little Big now on Amazon, and there's a paragraph that says Crowley's work has a special alchemy, mixing the world we know with an imagined world which seems more true and real. I think they're speaking in general of his work, and kind of goes along with what you guys are saying, I think. So yeah, you've sold me on that one, Matt and John.
I'd really like to hear what you think.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to get one of those cheap paperbacks and
Mike, I'll send. I think I have a bunch of Crowley. I'll send it to you.
Oh, thank you.
You got to be careful of the prices because one Amazon entry is for $930.
Oh yeah,
it's not that good.
Yeah.
Which book is that?
It's not $900.
Crowley's The Beat.
Yeah, you get his early stuff. So both the Deep and his second book, Beasts, are relatively easy to find in paperback and even in book club.
Yeah, Beasts is okay. It wasn't as good.
But finding those in actual hardcover editions are really tough. Doubleday did not do a lot of prints.
I don't necessarily need hardcover, but you're going to send me a copy of the Deep sometime?
I'll see if I have the Deep. I think I have Egypt.
If you did, I want to get Egypt, Pete. I could get that off you.
I see Little Big is on Kindle. But
I think I have like 3 copies of Little Big.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll send you guys a list of what I have. And
okay. All right. Thank you, Pete.
Yep.
Okay. And then the last I have for now is that looks interesting to me, which is most of this list looks interesting to me, but I have not read yet, is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. So I don't know, something about motels and horror and everything just kind of appeals to me. I really can't articulate why. Something has not been right at the roadside Sundown Motel for a very long time, and Carly Kirk is about to find out why in this chilling new novel from the New York Times best-selling and award-winning author of The Broken Girls. Looks like there's 2 time periods, 1982 and 2017. So I guess all I can say about this, if you guys haven't read this yet, is that it looks interesting to me, and I'm probably going to pick it up at some point when I can find a cheap version. Sorry.
Yeah, I picked it up. I got like some kind of Kindle deal this past week, and I had
I missed it.
I looked at it a couple of times, and I was like, and then the Kindle deal came, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll give it a shot. So I haven't gotten to it yet. But
shit, it's my bad. I can't. Sometimes I don't get to I don't see my emails every day. Okay. Do you guys want to throw out any movies that we should check out, that the audience should check out, that we haven't discussed? And then I want to talk about an upcoming author by the name of Anna Efris for a few minutes. So, anybody?
Were you guys talking about Scare Me last week? I finally saw it this past week, and I really loved it. I thought it was terrific.
Me too.
I'll watch that.
But if everybody's talked about it already, we can just move
I
on.
wouldn't say everybody's. We haven't mentioned on this show really too much. But I guess we did talk about it last week. All I can say is Aya Cash, if that's how you say her name, is a great actor. So she's.
You know what? That was the part of the film that I loved the most. I loved the idea like having characters get together and tell each other stories. We've seen that before.
Yeah.
But what usually happens when you do that is you cut to a dramatization of the story that they're telling.
Yeah.
And instead, just allowing the two actors to act out the story that they're telling. I guess it wouldn't have worked unless you had good actors.
Well, that's
wait.
says they appreciate about it.
Wait, is this like My Dinner with Andre for horror?
It's really
no. It's what's the movie where the guy has the My Dinner with Andre action figures? Do you remember that
Waiting
one?
for Guffman.
Yeah.
You can I'll post it. You can find that YouTube link.
The only negative thing I'll say about Scare Me, and it's really just my personal preference, so you can feel free to ignore it. But I was kind of you remember when they were talking about the story and the two eyes glowed, and they're like, "Is that the dishwasher?" And she's like, "No, the power's out," or something like that. How can I say this in a non-spoiler way? I was hoping the movie would go that way instead of the ending that we got. However. That's personal preference, and the movie is fantastic, and the acting is really, you're right, fantastic. If you had 2 lesser actors on this, it just would not have worked. So, yeah, really good movie.
Yeah, I could talk about this and spoiler it, in spoilery details, just a great deal more. There were just all kinds of touches that I really liked. All kinds of narrative conventions that it sort of plays with and then decides it doesn't want to pick up. Yeah, it was filmed in upstate New York, not that far from me. I looked at it and I was like, is that the Catskills? And then at the end, the bookstore that the book is in is the Golden Notebook in Woodstock, which is one of my I've read there, and I was like, it's the Golden Notebook, but why isn't my book in that? That's a whole other story. But anyway, aside from my outrage, it was
yeah, but you're not bitter.
I'm not getting older. I'm getting bitter.
There were a couple special effects, but they fit where they, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and most of the effects I think were like auditory, were sound effects. They play
but I'm
around
thinking of like the werewolf hand. Things like that.
Yeah.
That were
and
just
pizza,
barely there.
There was like Canadian pizza in that movie, and that right there, that's a special.
That's horrifying.
I love Canadian pizza. Don't get me wrong.
The other weird thing was, not to spoil anything, but the way the pizza guy came in. I mean, I've ordered pizza before, and none of them have ever turned the knob, closed the door quietly, and then said, "I'm here," or something, whatever it was he said. Usually they knock on the door.
Right. So, well, it's like a red herring kind of thing. Right?
Yeah, I
guess.
You're
supposed to think, "Oh, here he is,"
Yeah. So anyway,
All right. So
yes.
I watched the movie with the family.
Which is?
UB Halloween.
Oh, the Adam Sandler one?
It's the Adam Sandler Halloween movie.
I avoid Adam Sandler at all costs.
So it wasn't the UB40 Halloween show.
No.
There's a lot of red wine in that.
We can
Adam
mention
Sandler is bad for humanity. What, Rick?
I was saying, this is the movie we were talking about beforehand, where you thought the actor would have been 70 years old, right?
Who are you talking to?
Pete.
Oh no. That's a different movie. That's Pauly Shore in the.
Okay.
Did you like Hubie Halloween?
I have to tell you, I'm not a big fan of Adam Sandler, and this is not a great film.
Oh, really? Adam Sandler's in a film that's not a great film. I'm
But
shocked.
I could see this being played every Halloween for many years to come.
I did read that some broadcaster or newscaster or somebody like that who cameoed in the movie got fired because he was in the movie.
No, not because she was in the movie, because she had a contract and she violated the contract. It has nothing to do with her being in the film. It has to do with her breaking her, appearing in any film.
I hadn't watched the movie, so I only.
You kind of feel though that like an Adam Sandler film would be an especially egregious violation of that contract.
Yeah,
like if you've been in a Scorsese film, they might have been like, "Hey, all right, it's okay, it's Marty,"
Right,
but
yeah,
like
exactly.
Adam Sandler, and oh no, absolutely not. I mean, could have been Pauly Shore, it could have been worse, but still.
Yeah, exactly. But okay, so there are some typical Adam Sandler crude humor moments.
Really?
Surprise.
Yeah. I'm shocked.
I could see that they're relatively quickly edited out, and it would be a very wholesome film for the whole family every year.
You're saying it could be for Halloween what A Christmas Story is for Christmas.
Yeah, and then that's the kind of movie we like to recommend here: wholesome family films. So
why can't we just watch the 1930 something Dracula and Frankenstein on Halloween?
Nosferatu.
I mean, you don't have to watch. Well, you don't have to watch a shitty Adam Sandler flick.
Or watch the Monster Squad.
The Monster.
Monster Squad, yeah.
Or Dracula, Dead and Loving It.
Or
okay, no. How about something really scary like the Skeleton of Cadavra?
I know you watch a lot of crappy movies.
Have you seen that one?
I have.
Has anyone else? You've not?
I've seen the trailer.
You've got to watch this movie. Oh my God, it's a brilliant piece of cinema. It's got lines like, "If I wanted to live a safe life, I wouldn't have married a man who studies rocks."
That is a great line.
That's true. I mean, that's
because her geologist husband is creating danger.
Pete, I'm all for you watching.
And the special effects. Oh my God, I can't believe
we're done with this topic. We're done. What film were you even talking about?
Rocks.
The Skeleton of Lost Cadaver, the Lost Skeleton of Cadavra.
It's a parody of 50s horror movies.
It was a parody?
Pete, I know you watch a lot of crappy movies to weed out movies for us so that we can watch the good ones, but you really need to draw the line at Adam Sandler. That's where the line should be drawn, right there. So, all right.
He also played a son of Satan at one time too.
Yes, Little Nicky.
Oh,
and by the way,
it sounds like it could be a mafia movie too. Little Nicky.
Yeah. But
I don't want to talk about Adam Sandler anymore.
That's kind of like Hellstrom. And this is a segue to what I forgot before. The actress's name is Sydney Lemon, who plays Satana.
Oh, okay. Are any of you, just to elevate this conversation, familiar with an author by the name of Anna Efris?
I've heard the name, but I don't know the work.
All right. Well, I'm not too surprised because she's got about half a dozen stories published. And I just want, all seriousness, all kidding aside, I consider it part of our job on this show to make the audience aware of not only, movies and books that we like by established authors,
but shit we hate too, right?
Shit we hate, obviously.
Adam Sandler stuff. That's
avoid
right.
Adam Sandler. But also,
and Pauly Shore.
Yeah, but also, I think it's our job. It is, I feel, our job to let people know about up and coming authors that you may not know about yet. So, Her name is Inna Effress. It's Inna is her first name. Effress is Effress, I believe. And speaking of pencil and paper, I'm going to list her. I asked her for a list of her published stories, and this is not a long list, but I read one of them. One of the stories that I read the other night called Nervous System. And I'm a jaded horror reader, as are we all here. But I'm reading the story and I'm going, I actually said the words out loud, what the fuck? I mean, she is a good writer. So seek out her work, and kudos to whatever publisher gets to publish her first collection, because you'll have landed a really good writer. So anyway, here's the list. Defiance was published in The Wrong, the UK. I guess something called The Wrong. I don't even know what this is. But fortunately, we have something called Google, and you can look it up. So Defiance is the name of the story, was published in The Wrong, UK. Liquid Air in Night Script 3, we all know what Night Script is, and Best Horror of the Year 10. So that should tell you a lot, right? Ellen Datlow. Liquid Air and Night Script 3 and Best Horror of the Year 10. All right. The story A Blind Cupping, Cupping, in Santa Monica Review. The story I was just talking about was called Nervous System in Strange Tales, which is Titaris. And then The Devil and the Divine in Weird Horror. Yes, John, let me put you on screen here, so please keep holding that up. First of all, such a great cover, published by Undertow.
Terrific cover.
Yeah, Mike Kelly. I'm sorry, I've posted this cover before, and I did mention the artist's name, but I don't have it memorized.
Cover art by Sam Heimer.
Thank you. Anyway, you should buy that anyway, but Anna's got a book in there, or excuse me, a story in there called The Devil and the Divine. Okay, so, I just want to make you guys aware who are listening that this is an up-and-coming author that really you need to watch. Read her stories if you can grab them. So, she's not the only reason to pick up Best Horror of the Year 10, for example. So, those are the stories. If you're watching this later and you didn't get it all, just rewind me. But she is a very, very good writer, and I'm looking forward to you guys checking out her work and giving me your opinions. So, and no, I've not been paid for this. So, this is my legitimate opinion, and I mean, really, all kidding aside, when a jaded horror reads a story, and I'm like, holy shit, I've just never seen this done, then that's worth mentioning, and worth mentioning to the audience. So, anyway, anything else, guys? I'm really loving DC Universe is phasing out video, but oh man, I'm really loving the comic availability on it.
Yeah.
And I hear, I think if I have this right, Pete, as of summer, everything will be available. All comics will be available on DC Unlimited 6 months after they're published. So
I heard something like that too.
Yeah.
Essentially, DC Unlimited is going to be, well, first of all, there's going to be things you can only get on DC Unlimited.
Yeah.
Of course.
Of course. Comics. Well,
it's not a streaming service anymore. I mean, it is now, but that's phasing that out. We're talking about reading digital comics.
Yeah. Only, all of DC's video and movies are going to HBO.
HBO Max.
HBO Max.
Because I recently learned there is a difference. Jesus
Yes.
Christ, help me.
But DC took a big hit during the big early part of the pandemic and basically broke with Diamond Distributors and set up their own distribution network with people nobody had ever heard of before, canceled a whole bunch of comics, laid off half their staff, and are now just trying to recover. And one of the ways they're going to do it is just essentially make comics and just release them digitally, and there will be no paper copies.
Of everything or just some things?
Just some things.
I have to tell you, I don't want to derail what you're saying, but I just can't wait to say this, that I look for something and it's there. I want to reread The Question from 1986, that series, and it's there.
Right.
And I want to, and the other thing is, I like the different way you can search. You can browse. I mean, by comics, or by comic issues, or by comic series, or this is what I really love, by storyline. You click that, and it'll give you like all kinds of different storylines. Batman Cataclysm, blah blah blah, so on. Right. Justice League Babylon, and so on and so forth. It's awesome. And you could just save them to a favorites list so that you don't lose track of them.
Right.
I can't say enough about this. And if this is the way they're trying to get back on track financially, it really is a huge step in the right direction as far as I'm concerned.
Well, so they've got this incredible backlist of books.
Yeah. Take advantage of it.
To pre-World War II.
Yeah.
And, you can only print so many giant compendiums and expect them to sell. But then you can get those stories out, and if people want to read the really crappy Justice League 6 stories from the 60s, they're available.
The other thing about, I'm not going to get on some digital is better than print or print is better than digital, but I will say this about comics. I found that I read comics slower, Pete, when I'm reading them digitally, because I read them one panel at a time as opposed to seeing the whole page. I appreciate the art more for each panel and so on. So
I think it's an interesting direction. We were all, 15 years ago, we were predicting the death of print books.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't, but yeah, I know a lot of people were.
But, what this could open up, again, is where Kindle made it easier to do, to self-publish. If DC opens this up and says, okay, look, digital comics is the new standard, maybe
send me your stuff.
What's that?
Send me your comics and we'll see.
Well, yeah, if there's not a huge investment in printing and marketing, if it's all digital now, then there's a real opportunity for other people to get in and present stuff.
That's true.
Right now, I think the comics industry shot themselves in the foot terribly with all their variant covers. They're expecting to sell people like 6 copies of the same issue.
Yeah.
So,
and the copies got very expensive. Are you supposed to buy like $4 a piece, 6 copies?
I just can't justify buying a comic for $4 or $5 that I'll read in 15 or 20 minutes. But
right.
Paying $7.99, I think it is, a month to DC Universe for just about every fucking comic I want. This is all, you're DC fan and all that. I canceled my Comixology Unlimited because I'm such a huge DC fan. Now, I got Hulk comics and all that kind of stuff. I'm not dishing on, I'm not, saying Marvel's terrible or anything. I'm just a DC guy. And so that's why I went with this direction and canceled Comixology Unlimited.
I read an article a couple months ago, Matt, about that whole period of time and the prevalence of alternate covers and whatnot and all that. And basically what the gist of the article is when you see a publisher start to do that, it's a death knell for their industry. They're scrambling to make money off of the same piece of IP as much as they can.
Right, and
they're
the same person, right? I mean, they're looking for the rabid collector,
right?
Going to buy like 5 copies of a comic, as opposed to trying to reach a broader audience.
Right, they're not thinking of our whole audience, the guy who is works at Walmart and loves DC Comics, or works at the gas station, or is a school teacher, or whatever, doesn't make a lot of money, but they weren't asking themselves until now. They weren't putting themselves in the shoes of their buyers. With that, they're only putting themselves in the shoes of their buyers that make $100,000 a year. So
I'm really reminded of when Nintendo came out with the Wii. One of the things that they talked about publicly was that this is a gaming system that we're targeting toward women.
I remember that, but yeah, go ahead.
Because it's more interactive. There's not a lot of. If you looked at their graphics were simpler. There wasn't a lot of games at the beginning for like sword and sorcery and fighting, whatnot. There was a lot of team games. They marketed a lot of home workout games and sport games, and a lot of the characters in the sports were women, bowling, tennis, all that kind of stuff. They went after a demographic that they didn't think was being served. And I go to my comic book store, and I know the guys in the comic book store, and I'm like, do you have Lumberjanes or Rat Queens or all this stuff for my girls? And they're like, yeah, we don't have a market for that.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like,
well, it's like I think the industry really, I mean, San Diego Comics Con, it's like right now comics stores like Mile High Comics can't afford a table at Comic Con because it's too expensive and they don't get enough foot traffic, so they don't make the sales that they would require to pay off their bills that they incurred for showing up.
Right.
Yeah,
it's really disappointing, frankly. Even my idea of comics is if you go to a comics con, there should be like a couple hundred indie tables,
Right.
Yeah,
right.
True.
And there are lots of independent publishers and people of color publishing and LGBTQ publishers who are really having a hard time getting into a comic shop.
Well, I hope they can get into things like this, like say under the DC banner, for example.
It would be an interesting thing to do, right? It's like, here's DC, and for $3 extra a month, you can get all this stuff from this publisher as well. Once DC establishes its format and works out all the bugs, it could easily branch out, or there could be a competitor.
Well, you mentioned bugs. I've not run into any. I read them on my laptop. The only negative thing I can say is that I don't think that DC Universe will remain available for Kindle for too long.
No, probably not.
But I in fact prefer to read the comics on my laptop. So, John, were you going to say something before we move on?
No, I was just thinking about how the conventions, like I did go to a New York Comic Con 3 or maybe even 5 years ago now, and it was terrific. Like I loved it, but it was not a comic book convention.
Right.
It was like a sort of comics media convention. There were at like one far end of the main hall, there were 2 long rows of comic books of people selling comics. But when I was like 12 or 13, I went to conventions in New York City, and those were they were all comic books. It was all comic books. Creation cons. Yep, it was all comic books and tables with comic book artists who would do they would do. I used to have like a little autograph book. I wish I could find what I did with this, but I had this little autograph book, and I had Bill Sienkiewicz and people like that just doing little doodles in my book, and I could sell those now and live in the style to which I wish to become accustomed. But they had art shows that were judged by John Byrne. It was like, I remember that was when John Byrne had taken over the Fantastic Four, and he had this talk. This is what's going to happen to the Fantastic Four in the coming year. That it's hard for me to imagine that happening at the Comic-Con of the New York Comic-Con, which is not nearly as big even as San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, everybody goes to the San Diego one for for Supernatural. So I don't know what they're going to do after that.
Well, it's all it's all media. It's all other media, right? And people in costumes.
Right.
And I love to see people in costumes. I think that's actually really cool. But it's not a comic book convention. Like it's like, no, we just have these other all these other. It's like a movie and TV and video game convention, that's fine. If you want to have that convention, that's fine. But I would love to see just a comic book convention. God, don't I sound old? But what can I do?
You're not wrong, though.
So, John, I'll tell you a story. When I was probably 15, a friend of mine went down into Philadelphia, and we went to a Creation Con.
Yeah.
And I submitted some art to the art show, and it was my cover to X-Men 300, and it was just this giant double spread with like 30 X-Men on it, and they bring it up to the art show, and it's like the guy looks at it and says, first of all, there's only like 10 X-Men, and that's all we're ever going to have. And I'm like, oh shit,
right.
And then second of all, but I was sitting there going, you literally shot yourself in the foot there. 10 X-Men, and now there's just like, you can't fit all the X-Men in on one page.
Yeah,
impossible.
There's a lot of cons that are calling themselves more like pop culture cons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anime cons, but I do have to say the last Comic-Con that I went to that had a lot of comics was Emerald City in Seattle. That was a really good comic book.
Well, that isn't that. Oh no, yeah, yes. You're right. Yeah.
It's good to know. Rick, did you have something before we move on? And we're about to wrap up here. You're muted, buddy. There you go.
I was just gonna say, I remember when splash pages were introduced by Jim Steranko in Strange Tales, I believe. It was a Nick Fury story where he was fighting the Yellow Claw. And he had a 4-page spread, but you can't see that if he doesn't have that one comic.
Right.
And the reason he did that was you would have to buy the other comic. You have to buy 2 copies of Strange Tales, so you can see this incredible spread that looked like a battle from a James Bond movie.
Well, last thing I'll say, circling back, is that I'm really enjoying rereading that question series from '86 on. And John, thought I'd show you these since I figured you'd be on the show today. That Denny O'Neil 3-parter annual.
Did I send you those?
I don't think so. I think I got these for Christmas from Danielle and Logan. But yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's what is this, 1987, something like 1988, excuse me. Detective Comics annual. Well, the story is called Fables, part 1, 2, and 3. And number 1 is Batman or Detective Comics annual. Second story is Green Arrow annual, and the third one was The Question annual. Fables part 3. Just such a good series, and I still get it. It's hard not to get a tear in my eye. John, you remember that scene at the end of Fables #1, where Talia says to Batman, I love you, I'll forsake my father, I will live with you under whatever conditions you choose. You know, I love you and I believe you love me, and I believe this is the only way we can be happy. You know, and he says no, even though he desperately wants to do it. So
yeah, he could be a real dick sometimes, Batman. I mean, let's face it.
I don't think that's what they were trying to get across, but if that's what you got from it, fair enough.
Come on, Batman, enough with this.
I think Robin could be the real dick.
He could too, but I mean, Batman had his dick moments. You know, no, I'm not going to marry Catwoman. I don't want to be. No, stop it. Just be happy. Stop it.
Didn't she dump him last time in the current canon?
Who cares?
Just get some. There's lots of medicine you could take. You could get some therapy. You get
some uppers, get some beer. You know, whatever.
Come on. You're rich.
Anyway, I think
buy new parents.
God. Anyway, John, we're going to keep you on the show, so you can be here next week too. Laird was like condolences to me for you being on the show every Sunday. So when I talked to him the other day,
he's just jealous because he failed the audition. Yeah,
I think
he
that's
froze.
it. Yeah,
he froze at the big moment. You were like, "All right, it's time for the musical part of our competition," and Laird was like.
What are you wearing, Matt? And you want to talk about the prize again?
But that didn't happen.
We can't hear a single thing you're saying. All right, there's a prize.
On though, so.
Oh yeah, Zenith. So send an email to ezineprizes@gmail.com. Put what Zenith in the subject header, and Matt will, in the meantime, work to purchase a new computer. So anyway, thanks guys. A nice fez, Matt. Thanks everybody for watching, and thanks to you guys for being here. Next week we've got John Horner Jacobs. Really look forward to talking with him again, and he's going to talk about specifically murder ballads and other horrific tales, which I'm sure several of you have read by now, but just another great writer. So, all right. Thanks, guys, and we will see everybody next week.
Don't go anywhere.